So part of running a fish room is diagnosing problems. So we set up our brine ship hatcheries. No, they're not fully set up yet, but my idea works. We'll come back to that. Okay, so kind of got these where I wanted to. I tapped into my air system for it up here, but then I noticed that as soon as I did this tap, I had other tanks around the fish room actually lose air pressure. So things are really like rampant right now because I've figured out my problem. So I could hear air leaking. Now, when I built this fish room, sorry guys, and every fish room I've done with an air system, I have actually never glued my air system together. And maybe that's a fault, but I feel like it's almost like a safety release. If it gets too pressurized, it can go wrong. But at the same time though, if it's ever in an area that's difficult to get to, it's going to be hard to service, kind of a thing. So I noticed that I heard air in this corner, and so I kind of started investigating, and I noticed that when I lifted up on this edge, everything pressurized again. So if you see, I ran it this way where it loops around the fish room, up and over the door, and then it comes over and comes across to where I could still open this garage door, but I kind of messed that up when I ran these lights up here. But anyways, right here, this T-fitting got loose. Because of the pressure that's put right here, kind of on the bend of the pipe, this T-fitting got loose and depressurized my fish room. So now that I have kind of got up here and shoved it back together, all the air started just rolling again, and it's things like this poor angelfish in here just going for a ride right now. So yeah, that's kind of one of the things is running a fish room is just you have to diagnose problems as they come up. So now while I'm standing up here, kind of a good way to show you, using the 1-inch PVC method, because so I'm using the Zis brine ship hatcheries, and the 1-inch PVC, the handle slipped perfectly into it. Now I've done this in my last fish room where I actually drilled a hole in the back of the PVC and connected it to a stud on the wall. This time I drilled 2 holes in the back to allow zip ties to go through, and I zip tied it to my rack where now this will just slide in, and I'm gonna I need to finish connecting my air line up to the taps, make sure I get that one tapped in, and then I'm gonna start hatching brine shrimp out here. So this worked. So this idea definitely worked, and maybe we'll go over more of how I set up brine shrimp and all that. I've shown it before, but it's been a few months since I've hatched it, so I'm actually excited to get this going again. It's gonna be a super food for these fish. But so there's kind of where we're at in the fish room right now. Just wanted to show you guys a problem I found and what I did to diagnose it, and now we're setting up brine shrimp hatcheries here, getting ready to hook up the brine shrimp hatcheries. We'll come back to those. I noticed something with my guppies. So these are the white Moscows or snow whites that I found locally. Picked up, I think, 12 of them, question mark, everything that the store had. So I did a heavy feeding today of a bunch of frozen food here in the fish room to really give some protein into the tanks, and a lot of this will get cleaned up because there's actually some L184 bristlenose in this tank. But there's a guppy, how do I not blow this out, that was really struggling here, and kind of viewer discretion advised. It's not dead, but it's dying, unfortunately. And I noticed it would kick, go upside down, kick, go upside down. So I netted it for a couple of purposes here. One, I wanted to try and give some relief to the fish to hopefully get some strength back. But two, as I need 2 hands here, I wanted to kind of investigate. See, it'll kick. It's upright itself. And I have a different net I may put this in actually, because it's just getting itself caught. But on the very tail of the fish though. So I did, I'm trying to show you on camera. It's super red, right by the anus, where it would expel waste. It's extremely red. Now, that is a concern of right there. See how it's super red? And the gills are red. Now, I did feed bloodworms into this tank, but I've had no other fish acting strange, odd, Nobody's showing any of that. And when I first got these fish, I did use Paracleanse by Fritz. I did my couple rounds of this to make sure they were dewormed. But now I'm concerned that there is either some Camellinus, the red worm, whatever, which I've actually never had an issue before in my fish room, or just another internal parasite potentially going on. So I actually have some, can you kind of see it again? I have some Expel P that I purchased to deworm my dragon puffers with, along with Paracleanse and other deworming medications. So I think I'm going to dose this tank now with Expel P just to do another round of deworming, because now my concern is the rest of the guppies may have it, but now the bristlenose may have it as well. So I'm going to deworm this tank for sure, run some Expel P through here, and that's just kind of something I noticed while I was out here in the fish room. It's not a for sure diagnosis, but it's a diagnosis of something's going on with one fish. Can I stop it from happening to other fish? So I also have salt on hand. I honestly thought about pulling the plants out and adding some salt into this tank, but I think I'm going to start with the Expel P and then kind of go from there. So now let's get back to actually setting up the brine chip hatcheries, what I meant to do out here. So before I forget, I actually just ran upstairs to my studio and grabbed it. So this is the Fritz Expel P, which I will be dosing into this 20-gallon tank. So I'm going to, this is the packet form. So I've already used some to dose out my puffers. So I'm going to dose 2 packets, because 1 packet treats 10 gallons. What's this double? Yep. Use 1 packet Expel P per 10 gallons of water, and then all of that 1 week later. So yeah, we'll probably dose it, let it sit till my next water change. Then I may dose it again just to make sure everything's taken care of. So let's say we did the Paracleanse, but just in case this something looks a little wonky, we're gonna now dose some Expel P into the tank and hopefully cure up whatever's kind of going on in here. So it's like one of the reasons why I keep meds on hand, right? Is just I run into something, I can now treat it before it gets any worse. So we're gonna dose some Expel P, then we'll get back into setting up the brine trip. We finally got the brine trip hatcheries hooked up in here. I'm so excited to have like brine trip ready to hatch again in the fish room. It's been a while. One thing I want to point out though is I see a lot of arguments of how much air you need in a brine trip hatchery. My honest opinion is you will never have enough. I mean, yes, you can hatch this out with a small non-USB air pump, but if you watch the videos, like in particular, Aquarium Co-op has done where they visited like Israel and did the fish farm tours, the amount of air going into their brine trip hatcheries is astronomically high. Now, this is a drop of brine trip compared to how much they hatch, but just like people are gonna look at this and go, that's too much air. It's not. I promise you this will hatch. I've done it this way for years, back in Utah, and I never had an issue with it. But I'm excited to hatch it here because I want to see what happens with my water, and does it affect brine trip hatchery? Do I'm gonna have to buffer it with baking soda, all these different things. So a lot of things to get into, a lot of things to kind of experiment. So the plan is to start one, I will feed it out, and then I'll start one probably tomorrow morning. I'll start the second one. That way this one's ready to feed in about 24 hours, and then this one's ready to feed in 24 hours, and I'll just keep restarting each one. After I feed it, I'll restart it. This one feeds, I'll restart it. So hopefully that makes sense. Now to set it up and to actually hatch though, I am using the Aquarium Co-op brine trip eggs. These are hands down my favorite eggs to use. I have a full review and comparison to probably the next leading brine trip eggs, which is Brine Trip Direct. Now, Brine Trip Direct, they were local to me when I lived in Utah, so I'm very familiar with their product. I used them for a very long time, but the hatch rate I get from Aquarium Co-op eggs is by far superior to what I had from Brine Trip Direct. And so I say my video is a full cost comparison breakdown. So I even did all the math for you and showed that. So you can, after you get done watching this video, go watch that video if you're interested in checking out Brine Trip and what's going to do it for you. And then I really do like that they actually include a spoon now. So this is something that, if this is kind of their recommended amount for hatching eggs, and you can hatch more, you can hatch less. But I found these Clip coffee tablespoons. This is 1 tablespoon. That's kind of what I use from just what I've been using. So the salt I use, though, pull it over here, is honestly, it's this Diamond Crystal Solar Naturals. This is actually for water softeners, but there's 0 additives to this. And we're gonna set up this one first because I feel like setting this one up first. So I will do 2 full tablespoons of salt to this hatcher. Now I think it's like a tablespoon to a liter of water. Now if I remember correctly, I think this is roughly 2 liters, like roughly. I have to check the stats on that again, but from my experience, it's 2 tablespoons of salt added right into there. Then I honestly, immediately after, I will add a full tablespoon. Okay, this is getting interesting here with one hand. Now I've got a lot of fish to feed. I've got a lot of fry coming up, and I will feed baby brine shrimp to every single tank in this fish room. So I will add 1 full tablespoon of eggs straight into this container. Now I will add the air back to it. And I will let that run. So in about 24 hours, I say 18 to 24, it's like 18 to 36 hours is kind of when you see those hatch rates. I typically harvest it around 24. I can't say it's exactly 24. I mean, it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon right now, I think. By the time I harvest this, it'll probably be like 7 at night. So you do the math, right? It's like roughly 24 hours where I have the most hatch rate. And so I will let that run. And that's how I set up baby brine shrimp. I love this salt. It's stupid cheap. It's like $8 for a 40-pound bag. You can use this with marine salt. I've done this with the, the kosher or non-kosher, whatever, table salt. I've done this with regular other aquarium salt. Just salt, right? You just need salt. I just like this as I can buy it in bulk, and this lasts me a very long time. So there's how I set up my baby brine. So now we have baby brine going again. We got this one ready to start in the morning. So we diagnosed air today. We diagnosed the 6 fish today. We've got baby brine going again. I hear something. What am I hearing? It's always like when you hear a noise, you go investigate, right? Oh, okay. Sorry, just kind of looking at things. But like I say, I'm excited to get baby brine going again, though, to hopefully really help me get breeding the Molui crebensis again. They're definitely getting fired up. They definitely want to breed. But when I add in a live food, it's magic. It is absolutely magical when you add in live food to fish like this. But then we have self-in molly grow outs. They'll do great on this. I bet you all have more success with my rainbow shiners and things like the geophagus spawns and even the angel spawn, even the plecos. Like all of this will benefit from baby brine shrimp. So it's going to be a big thing to get here in the fish room. So thank you guys for joining me, watching me. This is kind of I meant to film again of like one part here. The next day I'll add something to it. The next day, like this is what happens in a fish room though. So I definitely say, if you watched this video, go check out my video on the brine shrimp to get my full cost comparison breakdown on why I like the Aquarium Co-op eggs better than anything else. And we will definitely see you guys in the next one.